Yeah, I don't think anybody else is still in the waiting room. Morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. This is the third in our series on looking at how AI is going to impact on the learning environment. We've asked William Rogers to come back again to join us. The focus today is to think more about assessment and to try and answer the question, how do we know someone has become more competent in an AI world? So what does AI allow us? So we're going to have two focuses today. One is to talk in some detail around how can AI assist the person running the assessments, designing assessments, delivering assessments, and how will that benefit? The second question is a more difficult one, and I want to pose it to everybody for thinking about. I don't think we have a clear answer as to how we must deal with it. And I think it's going to be an unfolding thing. But the question is this. So if learners can access AI to assist them in answering questions posed in assessment, how will we actually know that they have learned? Now, William will make some comments around that today, but I don't think there's a clear route forward as yet for anyone. Just a few words about William. William, as you know, William and I worked together for many years in a training company, British training provider. William is now based in Holland, still working obviously in the learning field. He's got an MEd in Master in Education, William. I don't know if you want to add any further comments from your side. William, I'm going to hand over to you. Oh, just last comment for everybody. Please remember this. We'd like this to be an interactive session. So please do engage with William, raise questions, make comments, but put them into the chat box because
I think we've lost Andy there for a second. Do you want to take over and start your presentation?
Yeah, thanks. Andy, your mic's going, Andy.
Yeah, my mic is back. So please engage. I will act as moderator. Put the questions in the chat box and then I will pose them to William when it's an appropriate time. William, over to you.
Thanks, Andy. Thank you very much. And welcome to everybody again. It's nice to see you back. Hope you didn't scare you too much last time. So I'm going to dive into our presentation quite quickly because there's quite a lot that I want to do with you in respect to some of the AI developments as demonstrative things. So let me just share my screen and we can just get going. Give me a moment. Andy, if you can just confirm you can see the screen.
Screen's up, please go ahead.
Okay, cool, 100%. So we're very much looking at and discussing the future AI, the future of assessments, embracing AI in education. And the presumption we are making at the moment is that we're going to embrace AI into education. I know there are a lot of, there's a lot of speak about not using AI in education, and a lot of educators are not interested in doing it at the moment. But from our perspective, unless you're going to start using AI in education, you're going to fall behind the curve. And I look at something, and I was just talking to Andy about this in a moment. Here in the Netherlands, just recently, like in March this year, they went ahead and they banned all cell phones in all schools, which is perhaps a retrospective step in terms of using education. And I can understand why there's a myriad of other reasons in terms of this, but for the moment, they have actually banned that type of technology in schools. So moving forward, sorry, just playing with screens, just give me a moment. There we go. We've posed a question in terms of where we may be, and perhaps we're already there. And I'll ask the question, in the future, as a learning facilitator, Jane uses high-powered testing to assess an employee called Alex on their AI skills. Jane designs a customized assessment that combines theoretical knowledge and practical application. In the future, I think we're already here. Okay. We are able to use virtual simulations and IA analysis. The analysis provides a real-time feedback and personalized recommendations for future growth. So that would be very much contextualized into your own organization. If you've got a learning management system, an LMS, that is able to do that and host those types of things, for example, Moodle or Spring or one of those, or even Blackboard, one of those other types of LMSs, then you're able to do that. I'm not too sure that our LMSs at the moment are that advanced unless someone in the organization is actually tuning them to do that right now. Okay. Our third point we make is Jane is able to envision a future where AI-powered testing platforms seamlessly integrate with human expertise, revolutionizing skills assessment, enabling personalized learning experience. All right, so we got here that the revolutionizing skills assessment. Yes, I think we're already here. Enabling personalized learning experiences, and a lot of people are touting this at the moment. Yeah, next takes quite an experienced educator to get to the point where you can actually do the learning experience right now. It's not that the knowledge isn't there, the knowledge base is there, but it needs a lot of experience to understand what is going on with a learner. And these are a little bit of the fallouts we're having right now. Okay.
If I can comment on that, I think the interesting thing for me is currently a facilitator could start focusing a learning experience uniquely to each learner, but it takes a heck of a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly that. And it's not going, and one of the point I'm making is that it's not of a push of a button of the AI right now to get that right. Eh?
But it's something that AI offers the possibility of.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's there already. We can see it working in small aspects at the moment and that type of thing. And lastly, the advancements is going to shape how we work into the future by enhancing skills development and adaptability in our skills force. And that's two very important facts. Within the workplace, and again, I frame it in terms of context, okay? The way we're going to integrate AI into our workforce is going to force us to move over to a digital literacy that is becoming so very, very important. Moving forward, currently, a lot of our assessments are paper-based, multiple choice type of questioning, may be done online. That's already here. And this is decades old and very widely used at the moment. Okay. We are in a position where we're starting to get a very good grip on the importance of knowledge assessment, such as the theory of what we are doing, okay, versus that workplace assessment where we're implementing skills and behaviors. Okay, it is very much a behavioral approach, a behaviorist approach. And there are a lot of academics that are going to argue that behaviorist approach is not that great for teaching somebody into the workplace. They want to focus on the knowledge, get the theory in place, and then work off a theoretical base. Okay. We have to be and adhere to that the critical role of evaluation in the learner's learning. Okay, process and instructional strategies. How do we get the knowledge into his head? How do we extract the knowledge out of his head? How does he apply it? How does he analyze it? How does he interpret that type of knowledge? And bear in mind, we are always moving to a point where we want one person to reach the top of the triangle in terms of getting to a point where he can create new knowledge. Right? Can AI create new knowledge? Yes and no. All right, and we'll give some examples in a moment to tell you that type of thing. But where we are at the moment is we're very much in a pivotal moment in the education. We have the power already to transform and support our learners And we're working on, as Andy said, we're working on the assumption that learners have access to AI. Moving
William,
forward.
just comment on your second last bullet, because I think you moved over it too quickly.
Oh, I moved over it. Okay.
The knowledge test, yeah, AI knowledge test.
One of the premises that we, in order to make sure a learner knows something, we're going to test that person. And from that, we focus our testing into knowledge tests. Okay. And we'll set them up. It's very easy. We do multiple choice, we do short questions, we do case studies. But the chat GPT-4 was given the opportunity to write the uniform bar exam, which is classed as one of the most difficult exams in the world in the United States, and speaking to the lawyers' exams. Okay, and chat GPT-4 was graded in the 10th percentile of passing that examination. So it is already able to source information from the internet. Okay, and bear in mind, chat GPT-4 is the current active one that is looking at all knowledge at the moment. There are different versions of chat GPT for a GPT, and depending on that depends largely on where it's able to source its information from. So using chat GPT-4, the bot was able to pass the bar exam in the top 10th percentile of that. And I've seen recent readings now in terms of using it to look at the doctor's examinations, not the skills part, the theoretical part, okay, and also get very high. What is quite interesting, yeah, and go ahead.
Can I have a comment here? I think the thing that concerns me is, the point you've made is that we make extensive use of knowledge tests or application of knowledge via case studies. Now, if I think about the number of ISAs that are in place right now, they are so heavily swayed towards knowledge tests and case studies that the learners must respond to. If learners have access to AI, it starts to raise, or it raises the question is, how much can we trust these ISAs as an indicator that this person should graduate? That's,
yeah. Andy, I think you make an excellent point. So yes, if he writes and passes an ISA, especially at NQM levels 1 through 5, it's very much based on the knowledge module and based perhaps a little bit on the practical module, but it actually doesn't take into account anything that takes place in the workplace, and those skills that that person should have achieved in the workplace modules are not assessed. There's a presumption at the moment that if you get through the workplace module and your workplace mentor signs you off as being competent within your own workplace, that's sufficient. And that's very difficult at the moment because it's very contextualized. It may speak to, and it does speak to, a particular organization. So if that organization is well advanced in terms of what they're doing, using the bits and pieces, their policies, their procedures, etc., are all in place, then that learner is going to come out very knowledgeable. But if you think of a person, an organization that's perhaps a bit backwards, still using old methodologies, that person is not going to be really current, although he's competent in the examination. And I think where the AI is now starting to play a role in terms of what we are seeing, and if you think of your LMS at the moment, we need to think very careful. But one of the contextualized things we need to be reminded is that AI is not going to replace educators at any moment in time, but we're going to have to leverage the AI in education. And again, it's making a point that we're going to need to become digitally literate and thus get to a point where we're incorporating this. Moving forward, we're looking at the role of AI in assessment at the moment. So right now, we're in a position where if you're working with a sophisticated LMS, we have automatic grading already. So that automatic grading, if it's programmed correctly, can immediately give feedback depending on the explanation and the learner answer. but it's not able to understand why that learner gave that answer. And this is where the role of AI, or the generative AIs, is starting to become quite interesting. It is able to address personalized assessment. Okay, your standardized LMS is not in a position right now to personalize an assessment because it's not able to understand why a person is able to answer a particular question that they've given. Okay, the options, etc., etc. Okay, and it needs that adaptive assessment requirement. Okay, to adjust to that levels of content that the learner is responding with. So I want to now take us over to a demonstration, and I'm going to be using ChatGPT 3.5, not 4 at the moment. So just give me a moment. So what I'm going to be doing is I've written out some questions. You can see them on the screen. Okay, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT to actually give us the answers, just to demonstrate to you how quick this particular bot is at the moment. So just give me a moment. I just need to swap screens. And if you can confirm, I can see this.
We're still seeing your presentation.
Stop share. All right, let's try that again. There we go. How's that?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Okay, so I've swapped over to the chatbot. I'm using, as I say, I'm using ChatGPT 3.5. Why am I not using ChatGPT 4? Well, there's an interesting thing. There's an interesting component at the moment. They want to charge you $20 a month, okay, which seems to be about the rate that all the other bots are using at the moment. Okay, but there's a cap. You can see here, there's a cap on this, and this has just come out very lately. So when we're using this, 25 messages in 3 hours, it's not sufficient for our needs at the moment. So, okay, let's stick to ChatGPT 3. And the first question I have asked is, provide me with Bloom's taxonomy of the descriptive verbs. Now, if you know about Bloom's taxonomy, and you know in South Africa, the InQF alignment, levels alignment, they're pretty much the same thing. And why is this so important? Because when we come to frame questions that we're asking ChatGPT, it's got to know at what level we are working on. So, okay, so I'm just pasting that screen in. Sorry, I've got one of my other bots working at the moment, which is giving me trouble. Oh, goodness me. There we go. All right. So it's just working. You can see it working at the moment. It's usually a lot quicker. And of course, when we want to demonstrate technology plays up with us. So just give it a moment. So and usually what I do is I will contextualize myself with ChatGPT to give it a context in terms of what I'm writing with. So I would have gone, I'm an educator looking to describe Bloom's taxonomy, and that contextualization of of that is extremely important because then it gives you an original thing. So you can actually see the levels that what we're talking about. Okay, and what is immediately it's giving us the verbs in terms of how we would frame a question. All right. So that is giving you an example of now identifying some information. This is very much just an informative question that I've asked. Okay, so if I just stop that and I actually ask ChatGPT, a question to ask me a question. So just now asking this question, ChatGPT, please write me a multiple choice question with answers and explanation about the bank's calculation of lending rates. Okay. We seem to be having problems here at the moment. Yeah, I'm just going to log off and log on again. Just give me a moment, please.
Just to tell you, William, I logged on my side to ChatGPT and it's very slow. So I suspect that it's under a lot of
Pressure at the moment.
Today.
Yeah, it's usually very, very quick. Huh?
But as you said, timing is everything.
Yeah.
For it to have a problem.
I mean, in all the practice sessions we've done, we never had a problem once.
No.
Now, during the live presentation, we have this problem. Okay.
So while you are working on that, just a comment in the chat box from Angelica. William, I love that you also say, please, when prompting ChatGPT, I do this too.
Yeah. Okay. So here it's worked. All right. So I asked ChatGPT, please write me a multiple choice question with an answer and explanation about banks' calculation of the lending rates. And I've based it at a level of simple recall. In other words, in terms of perhaps Bloom's taxonomy 1 or 2 or NQF levels 1 or 2. Very quickly, it was able, now that it's working, very quickly, it was able to give us, you know, a question, and it's able to do that, and it's able to give me an explanation. Right. I now take that one step further, and I ask it the following question.
William, while you're busy pasting, you've got 8 minutes left.
Wow. Okay. All right. So yeah, this job. Okay. So I asked it a question now. That's not working, Andy. We're playing nicely with ChatGPT at the moment. Okay. Here we go. And it gives you a rating. So we're just going to say the same. Okay. The next one I can say is frame this question with a vignette. All right. Now, for those of you not sure what a vignette is, that's just a little story. We may consider it as a scenario, or we may consider it as a starting paragraph to that. All right. So there we go. In terms of it's giving me a vignette, it's asking me the question immediately. Is it relevant? We're going to have to read through it very quickly and check that it's relevant. Okay. Now I ask it into the workplace. So to carry on with the vignette question, I say, please generate a question about this vignette and give me and a mark allocation as well. So going forward, we're able to then ask it, I'm asking it for a work-based scenario, okay? And it's immediately able to give me a workplace scenario that it is thinking about. Now, bear in mind, I'm not doing any thinking. This is the bot actually doing the thinking about it. And there's framed a workplace task that you can come in. We'd have to come back to it and have a look at it from that perspective. Is it applicable for the context that I'm working in, and can I use it? So that's just a quick demonstration of ChatGPT being able to do exactly what we as academic developers have done and are very good at for a long time. Moving forward, and I'm watching the time carefully now, I just need to stop my sharing, go back to my screen, please. Just give me a moment.
While you're doing that, William, you know, looking at that, it makes me really aware that the blood, sweat, and tears that I have shed trying to create assessment exercises, it does them in a fraction of the time, and I might need to check them, but the grunt work is done.
it does the brunt work, and this is exactly where I'm angling from at the moment. I'm going to have to go back and very carefully check everything. Yes, undoubtedly, but it frames those questions. So I could set up a multiple choice question based 10 questions over 3 papers, okay, in about half an hour. Right now, that's the speed at which the assessment is now moving in terms of the development process at the moment. So if we're looking at going back to this traditional assessment process, AI is quickly showing off the traditional knowledge assessment limitations in terms of time, in terms of an organized SME, developing questions. It is limited scope, it has subjectivity, and there's a lot of time consuming in the grading of these questions from that perspective if you don't have a one size fits approach versus the offering of objectivity that the AI is offering. And of course, it's leading us to this adaptive knowledge assessment, which is so very important because within the adaptive learning assessment, we can individualize the learning per se. Okay. The AI is producing better results from this perspective, and it is that. So where do we go with AI in terms of the, okay, so we look at this adaptive, all right, and we asked it to provide us with a vignette. So we're asking it a really customized, contextualized question. And then I'm able to ask this, okay, ask the ChatGPT, please redo that question, but now place an emotive response when something goes wrong. And it's going to come up with it. So people who are arguing that the ChatGPT is not emotive enough, it understands emotion already. It understands through the wording of what we're answering, what is going wrong. And as long as you don't ask the generative GTP how, the word how, it's going to give you an answer. So you'd have to frame your prompt into ChatGPT to look for the correct answer. But don't use how, because that's just going to give you a process. Okay. It is providing for continuous learning and upskilling. Okay. And if you have sufficient knowledge and data within the base at the moment, it's going to give you some sort of predictive analysis for talent management as well. If you're able to answer and grade your questions in such a way that you understand why something is particularly happening
William,
and why
1
people.
minute, 1 minute to go.
Last slide. Second last slide. Right. So what is our future reality? What is our future landscape? Intelligent knowledge content, AI-driven assessments, adaptive learning, virtual-based reality, natural language processing, okay? And then the collaboration of ethical considerations, something that we need to do. In terms of benefits, personalized learning experiences, effective grade processes, learning insights. Our challenges, data security, mitigating bias, equitable access. Okay, but Andy, and we've discussed this very much, how do we actually implement this? All right, how do we deal with learners using AI to answer our questions? And we go back to our first principles. And for example, we have a look at Kirkpatrick's evaluation model. And if you remember, that is a 4-level model. What are we doing? And we ask ourselves right in the beginning when we're designing the assessment, what is the need I want to achieve? Okay, right. Secondly, if I'm able to identify the need that I'm able to achieve, I can frame a question to then meet my needs. All right, and there's an expected learning scenario that goes with that. Moving that into the workplace, what are my behaviors I want to assess? Okay, or let the learner acquire. And lastly, then focusing on the results in terms of what I need that learner to be able to do. So if I'm able to apply this model on a consistent basis when I'm framing the questions, even though I'm using AI, it's not going to change what we're doing. All right, my time is up. Yeah. Andy, thank you very much.
Thanks, William. Just a closing comment from me. Won't you go back to that Kirkpatrick slide, William? It's become apparent to me that the use of AI by learners is mostly going to be the assessment is going to be affected largely at the learning level and possibly the behavior level, where people will be using AI to help them answer knowledge and case study based questions. The place where it's less likely to have an impact is on how people implement learning in doing their jobs. And I suspect we're going to start placing a stronger and stronger emphasis on that in trying to determine whether the person has gained the knowledge and skills that they need to do to handle it. But I think this is another big topic, and I suspect we need to come back to it. A comment from Angela Schultz, absolutely amazing. I have to log off to attend another meeting, but I could really spend a lot more time on the subject, as I feel it is key to our future as practitioners. Thank you so much for an informative session. I think we do need to come back to this. Let's leave that with us. I'll chat to our colleagues and see whether we can find another opportunity to talk on this. And then you'll see the link for your CPD points is in the chat box. Sharon saying, excellent. Maybe this could become a workshop. Thank you. Good thought, Sharon. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks, William.
Thanks. Bye.